I think this is an important to note that because they're moving fairly fast on this. Elon Musk has been appointed already to he's on the board and of Twitter, that is. To try to give you a quick rundown of what's happened, this started on like the 25th of March. It's the 5th of April that I'm shooting this. It happened so fast. It seemed that, this is my guess, I knew he had definitely with the SEC, he had some conflict with Twitter, right? And feeling like he couldn't say certain shit even as a guy as prominent as him. And so he posted a series of tweets basically with like a poll. One was a poll, and the poll was like, yeah, do you think that Twitter adheres to this principle of like quote unquote free speech? And he's like, y'all need to take this poll serious because it's going to have fucking consequences. So he was pretty serious, but you didn't know how serious because it was Elon, right? And then next thing you know, he becomes the majority or rather owns the most shares in Twitter the next week. Little weird there. On the upward of $3 billion, 9.2% stakeholder or whatever. So now he owns the most, and they have now put him on the board. I'm going to show you guys right here that a new CEO, right? Which is a kind of weird guy, had posted today. He's excited to share that they're appointing Elon to their board. And he says he's both a passionate believer and intense critic of the service, which is exactly what we need on Twitter and in the boardroom to make us stronger in the long term. So he had this post to share, which is significant, I guess. Says, looking forward to working with Parag, is that how you say his name, and Twitter board to make significant improvements to Twitter in the coming months. Now, look, I talked about this on News and Why It Matters. I talked about this on my show. I don't know what exactly is going to come of this. We can all only guess. What I think anybody can concede is that even of the billionaires, and this ain't about whether you like billionaires or you like, that's not important how you feel about fucking Elon. Or I don't trust him. Who gives a shit? That's not even important. What is the reality is that it's going to be some sort of shakeup being involved some way. Now, some of that may be only optics because there's only so much one person can do. But at minimum, there's going to be some sort of conflict, as there already is, among Twitter, because now there's someone that actually has a say, not the say, but has a say in it that differs in some. It's not about even the overall political or social position. It's more on a certain topic regarding what is Twitter and what should be policed on it. So there's odds there. We know that there's odds because, again, and this is where I think most of the problem comes from, or rather why Elon made this move, because it impacted him and his own individual voice. He's like, what the fuck? I'm a billionaire and even I can't say what the fuck I want to say. So I don't know what's going to happen. Nobody really does, or what this actually means going into the future. But it does mean that there's going to be some internal conflict. And this is what I'm most intrigued by. I'm less intrigued about what's going to happen as the result of that fucking website. Like I said, he could influence it to get burned to the ground. I'd be perfectly fine with that. But what I'm more intrigued by is you have this entity that has existed as, though not everybody is on Twitter, but it has existed as something that has a high user base, which people have made a part of their normal, like, social media lives, if you will. And then you have this other person who has infiltrated that because he had money that differs in some key aspects of policy. That creates tension, that creates conflict, and I'm most interested in what happens out of that. That's the part that intrigues me, is out of that, who's going to tell on themselves, where's the beef's going to be, where's the plex going to be. That's where I am most intrigued by, because I want to see what happens out of that. Now, I'm not expecting, not to say that it wouldn't happen, some sort of full like reversing of these recent policies that they had pertaining to medical misinformation, inconsistency in like suspensions and all of that, and allowing people to be on it. But it may. I can't rule it out because this is a big deal. Anybody that's saying that it's not is just talking out of their ass because they want to be edgy on some shit. It's significant, even if it's just that the people within Twitter are about to have some internal conflict because they have an outsider that they may not see eye to eye that has a lot of money, not just in, I don't know, owning or rather having X amount of stock in Tesla, but actually now is invested in the company or is invested in the company. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to come out of that. And I'm just going to just kind of check it out and keep tabs on it because I'm intrigued by that because I think it's meaningful culturally. But like I said, if it ends up being burned to the ground, I ain't going to lose no sleep either way.
You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Kenan's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.